If you want to change a difficult relationship dynamic, start by changing how you show up. A lot of times when you're in the midst of a difficult relationship where seems to be a pattern or a cycle of negativity in the relationship, like maybe it's a friend who's always like so self-absorbed and every time you hang out with them you feel completely like taken for granted or ignored or unimportant. Or maybe it's a toxic coworker that, every time you work with them, they seem to always like challenge you or criticize you or, make you feel like you're not good at what you do. Or maybe it's a partner that, you see as sort of like lazy or unresponsive and they're just like not pulling their weight in the relationship, right? These kinds of relationships leave us feeling really icky, really negative and resentful and angry and irritable and all of that. And when we feel that way, we tend to, your focus in relationships like that often is on them, right? Like they're messing up, they're not doing that, they say that, or they did that to me. And a lot of the focus is on them. But really, most of your experience of the negativity is mostly just those negative thoughts that you're creating about them. And what I want to challenge you is by saying, don't focus on them. Focus on you. Ask yourself, what are you doing to perpetuate this cycle? How are you sort of getting something out of perpetuating the cycle, right? Like you wouldn't be doing it unless you somehow got something out of it, right? So here's the interesting thing about negative cycles in relationships is that even if they feel like crap to both people, you're getting something out of it. Like you're getting some sort of egoic or identity like kind of boost from it, or it's confirming a story that you already believe about yourself. So even though it doesn't feel good, the cycle still gives you something. It's still feeding something inside of you, you see? So for example, in the situation with like a really self-absorbed friend, right, who like kind of takes and never gives back to you, on some level, like you have a story that you're not important, or that I'm too nice, or I'm too, I always get taken advantage of, or like, I'm a good friend. They're a bad friend. I'm a good friend, right? You see, you get to be, you get to kind of be someone that you see yourself as, whether that's like good or whether that's just like a story that you're like, oh, this always happens to me, right? Or if it's like a coworker who's really challenging you a lot or criticizing your work and all of that, like on some level, you doubt yourself. You kind of don't see your work as great, or, have some reservation about like your decisions and all of that. That the only reason that bothers you is because on some level you think it too. Okay? So the first thing to do is to just look at yourself and see what part of this dynamic you're playing a role in. You're like complicit in, basically. And it's super uncomfortable because it's so much more comfortable for us to blame the other person and be like, you're causing this, you're making me feel bad, and blah, blah, blah. It's much less comfortable for us to acknowledge that, oh, crap, I'm doing that to myself. I'm actually the one disrespecting myself. I'm actually the one undermining myself on some level, right? So that's the first step. And really what that does is it puts the ball back in your court. Like it gives you the power to actually change something about it, right? Like all of that thinking you were doing to try to, think of how they should be and psychoanalyze them and be all like, how are, they probably do this in all parts of their life, and, what's wrong with them, and they really need to see a therapist, and they really need to work on themselves. All of that is just a waste of your time. It doesn't actually change anything or make anything better. And it's it's creating more suffering for you. Okay? So taking ownership of what your part is empowering. It gives you power now to change it. A cycle cannot run with just one person. Okay, so stop holding up your end of the bargain. All right. So how do you do that? How do you sort of take ownership of what you're bringing to this relationship dynamic? First thing is to just acknowledge what you're doing. Like, yeah, oh crap, like I'm devaluing myself, or I'm not respecting myself, actually. Then challenge that, like reconnect with your inherent worthiness, your inherent vulnerability, and your inherent, imperfection. Like if your challenge is like really judging people and really seeing how they're messing up and they're not good enough and all of that, challenging that in yourself and saying like, you know what, actually I'm human too. I'm not perfect. I'm vulnerable too. And there's room for me to grow, actually. Or if it's like someone else, you're letting someone take advantage of you, reconnecting with that, with like the self-respect, like yeah, I deserve respect. I should be honoring myself. That really, like, I'm lovable. I'm deserving of respect. Filling that hole for yourself so that you can show up to the relationship whole. Once you do that, once you enter back into that relationship with wholeness and a greater sense of your sense of worth and your sense of respect and your sense of vulnerability, that changes your energy. That changes the way you behave and the inflection of your tone and the way your body language is and all of that. And that you will change who you are to that person. And then they inevitably will change how they are with you. They have to, because you're now presenting a different person, right? And so the way they respond to you will be different. Now, that's a subtle thing, right? That's a subtle thing that you could change. If you really want to be explicit about this and direct about this, which I highly recommend, if you feel safe doing this, right, is to actually share what your insight is with them. To share with them how you're acknowledging your part in creating this relationship dynamic. If both of you are suffering, like, kind of share with that person, like, oh man, like, you know what? I realize that I've been like really avoiding you and like being like really irritated when I'm near you, and I'm realizing it's because I've been carrying around this story that somehow you don't trust me, or somehow like I can't do right by you ever, But what's really going on for me is that I don't trust myself. That really, like, I don't always know what I'm doing, and that I have really, I'm really hard on my own sort of decisions. So, I apologize. I apologize for being so defensive and for being so irritable and kind of distant with you. Like, I'm recognizing my own part in that. Can we start over, like, or could we help each other maybe, like, build confidence and like let's just see if we can find ways to work better together. Like, what would that be like? I mean, what would that be like to say that to someone? Like, yeah, it'd be super uncomfortable, and maybe you'd be like nervous and shaking and all of that, and maybe it'd be like really embarrassing too, but you're opening the door for a whole new relationship. And if this is someone that you work with a lot or that you see all the time, like, that's significant. That's going to change your life. That'll change your experience of life, right? So it's worth it. Another one is, in like relationships or friendships where, you feel like the other person's really like taking a lot and not giving anything to you and not reciprocating to you, like saying to them like, hey, like, can we talk? Like, I've noticed that when we hang out, I feel really frustrated and kind of resentful. And I realize that it's because I'm like, I just kind of assume when I hang out with you that like I'm not going to be able to like get my needs met or like be able to have my say or anything like that. And I'm realizing now that like I'm assuming that you're not really saying that to me or doing anything to make me believe that I'm the one that's not really showing up to this relationship. I'm the one that's not, I'm kind of like asking you to read my mind. I'm not actually saying explicitly what I want or what I need. And so, yeah, I apologize for maybe being a little bit checked out from our hangouts or, acting kind of resentful or irritable with you. Like, can we talk about like what we need from each other or like what we maybe want from each other? See, again, it's like, can you imagine having like saying that to a friend or to a partner? Like, how much different is that from the way you usually are, right? And so when you can do that, if you can do that, I guarantee you the relationship will change. Like, even if their response to you, is like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't, like, I'm not going to do that, or I don't believe you, or I don't trust you. I still don't trust you. Like, great. Like, at least, again, you can't control them, but at least now you know sort of their true colors, right? Like, you kind of know more of what's real about them because you were real, right? So even if the outcome isn't what you expect, like, at least you can walk away knowing that you did your part. You did your best. And you spoke your truth, right? So you can sleep well at night, right? All right, so if you want to change a relationship, start by changing the way you show up. Acknowledge your part in how you're perpetuating the cycle and step back. Don't hold up your end of the bargain. And then if you're feeling brave, express that to that person. Express your insight and how you're realizing that, oh man, like I've been playing a role in this. And you'll be amazed that some people will actually feel safe now to do that with you. And they will then acknowledge how they've been perpetuating it. So both of you grow, and there's a real connection that gets formed in that moment. So, all right, hope this helps. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.